Hey guys, welcome to the Cinema Corral. This is the section of my YouTube channel where I talk about the latest releases and let you know what I thought about them. This video I'm going to be talking about the movies that came out the week of June 21st, 2019. It includes Child's Play, Anna, Toy Story 4, and Pavarotti, so let's get started. Child's Play is kind of a reboot, kind of a remake of Child's Play, the original, the Chucky movie. I kind of liked this movie. I was fully expecting to go into this one hating it, and it was a lot better than I thought it was. Now, it's still not great, but it's certainly watchable. It's definitely something you can go and enjoy with your friends or even by yourself. It's cheesy, but in the same way that the original movies are kind of cheesy. I mean, it's a doll that goes around and killing people. Aubrey Plaza is really good. I genuinely like her. I loved her in Parks and Rec. I haven't seen her in Ingrid Goes West, but I hear that she does pretty well in that. But it is a little hard to buy her playing a mother. Her son, Andy, played by Gabriel Bateman, is pretty good. He does a pretty good job with what he's given, and he's rather likable. And Mark Hamill is the voice of Chucky, and of course, it's Mark Hamill. If you've seen him do anything Batman related, like the Arkham games, Batman the Animated Series, you know that Mark Hamill can bring a lot to a voice acting performance, especially for evil, twisted characters, and it really works. That was the one thing that I was really looking forward to seeing. I know I'm not the only one, but right off the bat, I gotta say the Chucky redesign looks terrible. It looks so bad, and I know they used an animatronic for this movie, but I don't know, I really think that this design could have used another pass or two. But the one thing that I did like about this movie is that it is pretty decent at building tension. There are some scenes where you are just waiting for the scare or the kill to come. It's nothing amazing in terms of building tension, but it does its job well enough. The thing that I really dig about this is that it doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, you kind of have to suspend disbelief a little bit. There's this company, Caslin, I think is the name of the company, that is basically like Apple in that they have televisions, and it's basically a company that's technology-based that's basically taken over the world in terms of providing services to make everyday life a little bit easier. And the thing about this Chucky is instead of it being the reincarnated soul of a vile, violent man being put into a doll, this Chucky is the product of software tampering by a guy who gets laid off at work in a factory in Taiwan that's making these things. It's kind of ridiculous. I wish we had gotten something a little bit different out of that, because you could definitely do something with that, and this movie very much tries to hint at a message about our over-reliance on technology. You could have said something with it, not in a preachy way, but you could have had a little bit of food for thought at the end. But that being said, I did kind of like this update of Chucky. I mean, it's not a bad idea in terms of needing to update the character. This is definitely a way to do it. Like I said, it could have been handled a little bit better, but for what we get, it's serviceable enough. There are some kids that Andy hangs out with, and I really did not like them. A lot of them were just walking cliches and rather annoying, to be honest. They were my least favorite part of the movie. You could have cut them out and probably wouldn't have lost much. This isn't really anything against the movie, but there is a little bit of a continuity error. So there's this scene where Andy's hanging out in a hallway, and between shots his phone keeps going from portrait to landscape. I don't know, I noticed it. Somebody else might not notice it. I just thought it was worth pointing out. All in all, though, I didn't hate this as much as I thought I would. I was expecting this to be a soulless corporate cash-in, and what we got was actually not that bad. I won't say that it's anything amazing, but it is definitely a fun time at the movies. I'm going to go ahead and give Child's Play a C-. If you're interested in the Chucky films, if you like horror, if you want something to go do with your friends, check it out. It's worth at least a matinee. Alright, next up we have Anna, and this is the latest film from Luc Besson, and this movie is generic and bland. Basically think Atomic Blonde, but boring and bad. This film felt interminable. It was either 20 minutes too long or the pacing was off. It felt way longer than necessary. The characters are uninteresting. Sasha Luss plays the character Anna. In real life, she's a supermodel, and in this movie, she's a supermodel that's also a spy. She's okay, not really anything special. I have a feeling she might have been picked just because of her looks, especially knowing Luc Besson and all the disgusting things with him. There are way too many time jumps in this movie. This movie loves to play around with it. I think the movie starts out in like 1985, and then it jumps like 5 years later, and then it has the audacity to say 1990, as if the audience couldn't add 5 and 85. And then it keeps going. 3 years later, 3 years earlier, 6 months earlier, 6 months later. And it's way too much. It tries to have so many twists, and it gets to the point where the twists are predictable. It's uninteresting to watch. It really is. I just wanted this movie to end, and it would not end. There are a couple decent action scenes. One of them you see in the trailer, the one in the restaurant, and then there's one in the main KGB headquarters. But action scenes don't make for a good movie. You need to care about the characters. You need to have suspense, you need to have stakes, and there's no real sense of tension or suspense here. There's some really bad dialogue here and a couple of bad performances. There's a scene here that just reminded me straight up of The Room, with just how poorly it was executed. The whole subplot of Anna being this model really could have been dropped. I don't really think there's anything that directly affects. You could have cut it out and lost pretty much nothing. She basically gets recruited to the KGB because she's good at chess and she recites a passage from a play that Helen Mirren really likes. There are moments in here that are completely laughable. There are moments that are supposed to be super serious, like a character breaks down and cries, and their performance in that sequence was laughable. Then there's a bit where the CIA catches up with her, and the way that they found her is because of the way that she holds her purse, and it's like, okay, but it's not an uncommon way of holding a purse. She holds it like I'm sure a good majority of women hold their purses. I don't know, this movie is just really convoluted and generic, and we've seen it before. Oh, well, there are also some random zooms used to emphasize scenes. Like something dramatic gets revealed, and then there's a zoom, and it's hilarious. D-, it's not worth it, don't waste your time. Alright, next up we got Pavarotti, and this is the latest documentary from Ron Howard, and it tells the story of Luciano Pavarotti. He was a famous opera singer. He started out in the mid-60s, and he went all the way up to his death in 2007. I'm not a big opera fan, and I wasn't really expecting to get a whole lot out of this. I was looking forward to seeing something done by Ron Howard, but I can't say that I was genuinely eager to see this movie. I gotta say, I really did enjoy it. I was definitely the youngest person in the theater by at least 50 or 60 years. But the one thing that I really liked about this movie is that it gave me a whole different appreciation for opera as an art form. Now, I appreciate the musical side of opera, but it's just not something that I really got into. There is a great deal of talent that goes into being an opera singer, and after a few seconds of watching Pavarotti sing, you absolutely understand why this man was so popular. I do think that the movie is a tad on the long side. It might just be a pacing issue, and it might just be because there are several points where there are little bits of lulls. At the beginning, it's a little dry, and then maybe about the 3/4 mark, it gets a little dry, and I kind of zoned out for maybe about 2 minutes. But all in all, it is a pretty interesting and engaging film. I would have liked to know a little bit more about Pavarotti's personal life. We get a little glimpse of that, especially near the end of his life, where he gets divorced and he starts a new family. But I would have liked to have known a little bit more about his personal life, his home life. And yes, I get that the whole thing was about his career, but when you're doing a documentary about a person, you kind of want to capture both sides of their life, their public and their private persona, just to really get a well-defined, well-rounded understanding of who this person is. And I feel like I only got part of that. But that doesn't mean that this movie is bad per se. In fact, it's pretty good. I just would have liked a little bit more. There is something in here that I also did really like. Whenever they were talking about a different opera that he had performed, and it would give you a little bit of a synopsis of what the opera is about. I really appreciated that because I've heard a lot of these opera names like La Boheme and Tosca, but I had no idea what they were about. So that was kind of neat information. This is more of a production note than a genuine criticism of the actual film, but there are a couple of slides near the end that talk about his legacy after his death and all the charities that he was part of, anything that had to do with him that helped other people. The slides for those were not on screen long enough. I felt like I had to really rush to read them before it changed to the next one. I feel like if it had maybe, 2 or 3 seconds longer, it would have been a little bit easier to fully read and comprehend everything that those screens were saying. It's not really anything that detracts from the film. It's just something I think would have helped the film out a little bit in terms of presentation. The other thing is that sometimes it gets a little bit melodramatic with its music choices. There's a bit where they introduce this record executive, and a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, he's got a reputation of being a bad guy, and they might as well have just done a dun dun dun. All in all though, if you like opera, if you like documentaries, if you like Ron Howard, you might enjoy this one. I'm going to give Pavarotti a B+. It was definitely more interesting than I was expecting it to be. Alright, last up we have Toy Story 4, and right off the bat I gotta say I was very skeptical about this film. Toy Story is a franchise that is very near and dear to me. If you've watched my Rewind reviews, you'll know that I grew up watching Toy Story and that it's very special to me. So when they announced that they were doing a Toy Story 4, I was very skeptical. I thought 3 was the perfect ending place, and I gotta say, I really loved this movie. I know that it's got some problems, but I feel like Toy Story 4's ending is just as satisfying, if not more satisfying, than Toy Story 3's. I'm gonna have a spoiler video for Toy Story 4 coming up in the next couple days, so I will get deeper into my thoughts on this one in that video, but I will say the animation in this film is superb. The rain in the very beginning sequence it's fantastic. It's really just incredible what they're able to do with these computers. The toys have never looked better. The world looks fantastic. The human characters look incredible. It's astounding to see how much Pixar has improved in their animation abilities from the very first Toy Story to Toy Story 4. I'm blown away. This film is gorgeous looking. I love the characters. The voice acting is great. Christina Hendricks plays Gabby. Tony Hale plays Forky. If you've seen him in Arrested Development, he's very funny. Key and Peele play Ducky and Bunny. I really liked them. I thought that they were going to be annoying. I thought Forky was going to be annoying. I genuinely liked those characters. Bo Peep stole the show for me. She was absolutely wonderful. I loved everything about her character. Take notes, executives. If you want to have a strong female character, this is how you write a strong female character. You don't point it out to an audience every 5 minutes, but by showing the audience that they are strong and perfectly capable of keeping up with any male character. I really adored Bo Peep in this movie. The one thing that I didn't really like all that much is they kind of dumbed down Buzz. And a lot of people are saying that it might have something to do with the fact that he kind of gets rebooted in the third film. You know, he has that hard reset, and that might have messed with his brain a little bit, but they never really say anything, so that's just more headcanon than anything. And then other people are saying that he hasn't really been in a leadership role in about 10 years, so going back into a leadership role is kind of new to him. But I don't really buy it. I really wish that they didn't dumb down Buzz as much as they did. It's a little annoying, but they do get some good jokes out of it, so I'm not saying that I'm giving it a full pass, but they do kind of make up for it in some other areas. Another issue I have is that the other toys kind of get sidelined in this, and I know that it's Woody's story. This is very much Woody's story. It just would have been nice to have seen more of like Rex and Jessie and the Potato Heads and Ham, and a couple of Bonnie's toys are even fun. Mr. Pricklepants is pretty likable. I don't know, it's just a minor thought. It doesn't really have that much of a negative impact on my view of the movie. I still love this movie. It's just, I probably would have liked to seen maybe a couple more minutes with them. On top of that, this is probably the funniest Toy Story film we've ever gotten. There are some genuinely laugh out loud moments. There are moments where my auditorium was erupting in laughter. It was so hysterical. The plush rush scene is hysterical. There's just so many good jokes in this movie. That's kind of all I can really say without getting into spoiler territory, so I'm just going to leave it at that until I actually put out my spoiler video. In the meantime, I'm going to give Toy Story 4 an A. I laughed, I cried, I cared about the characters. I just genuinely love this film. So that's all I got for you for this episode of Cinema Corral. Like I said, I'm going to be putting out a spoiler review of Toy Story 4 in the next couple days. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you can get notified whenever I post a new video, and I will see you later.